The Bible has many interesting and mysterious places that are often kept secret and off-limits by God's command. These forbidden places have deep spiritual meanings and tell unique stories about how God interacts with His people and what happens when they cross divine boundaries. In this video, we will look at the top 7 forbidden places in the Bible and the secrets they hold. One of these places is a realm of darkness and chaos, acting as a divine prison for the forces of evil. What secrets does this place hide? Let's find out, starting with number 7. Number 7. The bottomless pit or abyss. The abyss, also known as the bottomless pit, is a scary and mysterious place mentioned in the Bible, specifically in the book of Revelation. In Revelation 9, verse 1-2, a star falls from heaven to earth and is given the key to open the abyss. When the abyss is opened, smoke pours out and darkens the sky. Strange, locust-like creatures come out of the smoke and start to torment people who do not have God's seal on their foreheads. Later, in Revelation 20, verse 1-3, an angel captures Satan, throws him into the abyss, and locks it with a chain, sealing it shut for 1,000 years. The abyss is shown as a dark and chaotic place where evil beings are kept. It acts like a prison for demons and other forces of evil, stopping them from causing harm until the final judgment. This shows that God has control over these evil forces, keeping them in check and preventing them from overpowering the world. The abyss also represents the boundary between the divine and the evil. It is a place that humans are not meant to interact with, highlighting the separation between God's good order and the chaotic nature of evil. This separation teaches that certain parts of the spiritual world are beyond human understanding and should be left alone. Furthermore, the idea of the abyss as a prison for evil beings until the end of time is a key part of Christian beliefs. It shows that evil's power is temporary and that, eventually, God will completely restore order and goodness. Number 6. The city of Jericho. The city of Jericho is a very important place in the Bible because it was one of the first cities that the Israelites, led by Joshua, conquered after entering the Promised Land. According to the story in Joshua 6, the walls of Jericho fell down after the Israelites marched around them for 7 days and blew their trumpets. This event showed that God was directly helping and supporting His people. After the city was conquered, Joshua made a very serious announcement. He said that anyone who tried to rebuild Jericho would be cursed. The curse said that the person who rebuilt the city would lose his firstborn son when he laid the foundations and his youngest son when he set up the gates. Joshua 6, verse 26. This curse made Jericho a forbidden place and a symbol of the consequences of disobeying God. The ruins of Jericho were meant to be a constant reminder of God's judgment and the importance of following His commands. The destruction of the city and the curse that followed showed how serious God's instructions were and what could happen if they were not followed. The curse on Jericho was fulfilled many years later during the reign of King Ahab, when a man named Hiel rebuilt the city. According to 1 Kings 16, verse 34, Hiel lost his sons Abiram and Segub, just as Joshua had said, showing that God's words are powerful and have lasting effects across generations. Number 5. The Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is a very important place in the Bible because it represents the perfect paradise that was lost when Adam and Eve disobeyed God. According to the story in Genesis, God told Adam and Eve not to eat the fruit from a specific tree called the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but they disobeyed God and ate the fruit anyway. As a result, God banished them from the Garden of Eden to prevent them from eating from another special tree, the tree of life, which would have made them live forever. To make sure that Adam and Eve could never return to the garden, God placed powerful angels called cherubim and a flaming, turning sword at the entrance. The cherubim were heavenly beings that acted as guardians, protecting the sacred garden. The flaming sword added another layer of protection, moving back and forth to keep anyone from entering. This setup not only kept Adam and Eve out physically, but also symbolized a deeper spiritual separation between humans and God because of their disobedience. The cherubim and the flaming sword show how serious the consequences of Adam and Eve's actions were. They highlight the shift from a close, perfect relationship with God to a state of separation and loss. The Garden of Eden represents more than just a beautiful place. It stands for the innocence and perfect harmony that humanity once had with nature and with God. They had to work hard to survive, and life became much more difficult. The Garden of Eden reminds us of what was lost due to disobedience and sets the stage for the ongoing human journey to find redemption and restore a relationship with God. Number 4. The Holy of Holies in the Tabernacle and Temple. The Holy of Holies was the most sacred place for the ancient Israelites, located in the center of the tabernacle and later in the temple in Jerusalem. This special room was believed to be where God's presence lived on earth. Inside the Holy of Holies was the Ark of the Covenant, which held the 10 Commandments. A thick curtain, or veil, separated this holy room from the rest of the tabernacle or temple. The space was so holy that no one was allowed to enter it except for the high priest, and even he could only enter once a year on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. On Yom Kippur, the high priest had to prepare very carefully before entering the Holy of Holies. He had to perform special rituals, including washing himself thoroughly, offering sacrifices, and wearing special clothes. The purpose of his entry was to ask God to forgive the sins of the priest and the people of Israel. This ceremony was very important because it symbolized making peace with God and seeking His forgiveness. The Holy of Holies also symbolized a deeper spiritual connection between God and the people. It represented the idea that God was extremely holy and that His presence required a special place that was set apart from ordinary life. The design of the Holy of Holies was meant to reflect heavenly realities, showing that this place was like a little piece of heaven on earth. The rituals and the sacredness of the Holy of Holies taught the Israelites about God's holiness, the need for repentance, and the importance of living a life that sought to be close to God. This sacred space reminded them of the deep spiritual truths about God's nature and His desire to be in a relationship with His people. Number 3. Bethel. Bethel, which means house of God, is an important place in the Bible. It first appears in the story of Jacob, who had a dream there about a ladder reaching to heaven, with angels going up and down on it. This dream, found in Genesis 28, made a big impression on Jacob. He felt that this was a special place where heaven and earth connected. Because of this, Jacob named the place Bethel and dedicated it as a holy site. After Jacob's dream, Bethel became an important religious spot for him and for future generations. It was seen as a place where people could feel very close to God and receive His messages. People believed that Bethel was a sacred place where divine revelations were more likely to happen, making it a central location for worship and seeking God's guidance. In the history of the Israelites, Bethel appears many times as a place where they built altars and had significant encounters with God. It was a place where people went to pray, make promises to God, and seek His help. The story of Jacob returning to Bethel shows how important it was to keep coming back to this holy place to reconnect with God's promises. However, Bethel's sacred status also came with warnings. It was a holy place, and people needed to respect its sanctity. There were times when people tried to use Bethel for wrong practices, which led to strong warnings from prophets who called for the place to be kept holy and free from idol worship. This shows that while Bethel was a place of great spiritual importance, it was also a place that required the people to maintain its holiness and respect its divine connection. Number 2. Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai is a very important place in the Bible because it's where God gave Moses the 10 Commandments. These are special laws that were meant to guide the relationship between God and the Israelites. During this amazing event, the mountain was covered in smoke and fire, showing God's powerful presence. The Israelites were warned not to touch or go near the mountain, and anyone who disobeyed this would face serious consequences. This rule showed how holy and special the place was because God was coming down to it. The rule that no one could go near Mount Sinai helped to show the difference between God and humans. This idea is important in many religions, especially in the Judeo-Christian tradition. The barriers around the mountain were there to mark it as sacred ground that regular people couldn't walk on. This separation showed that holiness is not just about being good, but it's also a powerful and serious force that must be respected. When God appeared on Mount Sinai, there was thunder, lightning, and a thick cloud, which made the Israelites very afraid. This fear was important because it helped them to deeply respect God's laws and His covenant with them. The dramatic events at Mount Sinai left a strong memory with the Israelites and shaped their religious beliefs and their relationship with God. Mount Sinai also represents the place where God and humans could connect through a mediator. Moses was the person who talked to God on behalf of the Israelites. This idea of needing someone to help people communicate with God is still important and reminds us of the special role that Mount Sinai played in helping humans approach the divine. Number 1. Land of Nod. The land of Nod is a very special and interesting place in the Bible. It is mentioned in Genesis 4 verse 16, as the place where Cain goes after he kills his brother Abel. This land is on the east of Eden, but it means much more than just a location on a map. The land of Nod represents a kind of punishment and a place of wandering and instability. When Cain is sent to Nod, it shows that he is leaving the presence of God and the wonderful life in Eden, moving to a place that is harsh and unsettled. Nod is not just a physical place. It symbolizes the consequences of Cain's actions. In Nod, Cain experiences restlessness and a life of constant movement, reflecting his inner feelings of guilt and turmoil. This place of wandering becomes a powerful reminder of how sin affects people. It shows that sin can lead to a life of uncertainty and discomfort, far from the peace and stability of living close to God. The story of Cain and the land of Nod also talks about isolation and being alone. When Cain is sent to Nod, he is cut off from his community and from God. This separation shows how sin can break relationships, not just between people, but also between humans and God. In Nod, Cain is protected by God with a special mark, but he still lives a life that shows both God's justice and mercy. This story highlights the complicated relationship between God and humans who make mistakes. Even though Nod is a place of punishment, Cain shows that humans can be strong and adaptable. Despite being a wanderer, Cain builds a city in Nod. This act shows that life goes on, and people can create new communities and continue living, even in difficult circumstances. Cain's building of a city suggests that there is a mix of God's mercy within the punishment, allowing Cain not only to survive, but to establish a new life and community. This story teaches us that actions have consequences, but it also shows the resilience of the human spirit and the possibility of finding a new way forward, even after making serious mistakes. And that wraps up our journey through the top 7 forbidden places in the Bible. Each of these places is a powerful reminder of the rules set by God and the important spiritual lessons they teach us. If you enjoyed learning about these mysterious places, please like, share, and subscribe for more cool facts about the Bible. Which forbidden place did you find the most interesting? Tell us in the comments below. Until next time, stay blessed and keep exploring the amazing mysteries of the Bible.